Welcome back to the Average Joes. Today we're going in depth how to catch perch through the ice. Stay tuned, you're not going to want to miss this one.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Oh yeah, there's a big one. That's a beauty. Finally got into a big one here. Oh yeah, nice big jumbo just got this guy.
Good fat one, look at one bite in there right now.
So they were a nice perch down there, just got one. That's got to be an 11-incher. There's more down there yet, I'm marking. Gotta love perch fishing, so fun.
Okay, so the reason why we go after these perch is because one, they're absolutely delicious, and two, they're super aggressive, and for the size of them, they fight pretty good. So we're going after perch, but where do we start? Well, generally, bigger water is going to have bigger fish, and that just kind of makes sense. There's more bait, more fish, and those fish have the space to get bigger. But that is generally, it's not always the case. So a good tip is to either have caught these fish, the jumbo perch, by accident. Maybe you're out bass fishing or pike fishing and you accidentally catch one of these jumbo perch, or you hear it from your grandpa or, a friend of a friend or locals around that they'll kind of maybe spill the beans a little bit on if there's jumbo perch in a certain lake or a certain area. And that's just enough information for you to get out and get after them. Okay, so you're headed out to a new lake, you heard from locals, or maybe you've caught something by accident, you're heading out to the lake and you don't know where to go. There's basically two bites that I'm going to look for when I get out there. One is a basin bite, so where the perch are out in that 20-30 foot flats, kind of the deepest section in a bay or the deepest section in a lake. All those fish are going to congregate there, and that's a really easy way to get out into a new lake, find kind of the deepest section in that bay or in that lake, and get out in the middle and just start punching holes and finding those fish. The second type of bite is a weed bed bite, which is one of my favorites. Especially late ice, those fish are going to push in shallow, feeding up for the spawn, and that's a great way to get after those perch, which is what we're going to get into today. Is a shallow water weed bed bite. Is you find the pockets of weeds and you fish kind of in between the pockets, and those shallow water perch are super minnow hungry and they're up there aggressive feeding, and generally that's where you're going to find the big perch. So we're talking anywhere from 6 to 12 feet in the weeds or on the edge of the weeds in the holes. And those perch, you're not going to get an absolute pile of them. They're not going to be like more of the basin related where you catch fish after fish after fish. You might have to wait 10 or 15 minutes per bite, but when those big perch cruise through, they are hungry, aggressive, and they're generally a good size. So when I go perch fishing, generally I'm going to fish anywhere from about an hour or so after daylight to about an hour before sunset. That just seems to be the best time. Generally early morning between, let's say, like 8 and 11, and in the afternoon between like 2 and 4. That's going to be your best times. But perch will bite all day. They just don't like when they can't see. So they're very predatory fish and they use their eyes. Like that's how they hunt, right? So when they can't see in the first hour of the morning and the last hour in the afternoon, they're not going to be feeding the best, but they'll bite all day long. They're not a nocturnal fish like a walleye. So just keep that in mind when you're going after them. So when we're after these big jumbos, lots of times you maybe not get many of them, or you maybe don't even get any jumbos at all. The biggest thing is don't get discouraged. Stay after it, plug away, and eventually you're going to find them. And you're going to get on that bite that you've been waiting for. Either that's going to be a basin bite or kind of outside the weed beds in that 15 to 20 foot range, or like the way Brendan and I, and I'll show you in this video, the way Brendan and I got onto them was that shallow water weed bed bite, and it was absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, that's a big fish. Holy crap, that's big. Just smacking some slabs. That big old jumbo. Can't see the water. Catching a few perch, and look who decided to show up. Biting on the little Swedish pimple. Quite a 1-footer, but on 11.5. Nice one.
So now we're gonna go in depth on the rods, lines, and tackle we use to catch these guys. So generally I'm gonna be using an ultralight or a light fishing pole. I'm gonna be using anywhere from 3 to 6 pound test line. And I'm gonna highlight here, I'm gonna show you a couple pictures with the names of each lure that I use. And these are the baits that I'm gonna use all the time for perch, and they're absolutely phenomenal. So I highly recommend picking up a few and trying them out. So when I come to a spot and I'm catching a few perch, I'll generally start off with just a little tungsten jig and some plastic, either like just some sort of little plastic. I'll show a picture right here of what I would kind of use right at the start. And then once I've caught a few and I got a few in the keeper pile, I'm gonna put on like a little forage minnow type jig, and then I'm gonna tip that with a perch eyeball. And I'm gonna probably use that all day. That's my go-to perch bait, and they absolutely love it. They're gonna smash that. And yeah, you definitely have to give that a go. That's one of my go-to baits for perch. And then once you get out there, you get on a bite, you're catching a few perch, they're absolutely delicious, and I definitely recommend keeping some. So if you're gonna keep them, the best size to keep them is about that 10 to 12 inch range. And I believe your limit's like 50 in Ontario or something. That's way too many. Honestly, as far as I'm concerned, if you can catch 10 or a dozen in that 10 to 12 inch range, that's a perfect amount to feed a couple of people. And they're absolutely delicious, so I highly recommend it. Okay, so we're out. We've punched 40, 50 holes, and we're jigging for perch. I'm gonna be jigging, like I said, with an ultralight rod and one of the jigs that I just highlighted, but we're allowed 2 lines, so we gotta take advantage of that. And my biggest perch that I've ever caught was on a set line.
Just caught probably my biggest perch of all time. It's 14 1/8 and 10 inches around. What a beast.
So you just use a small little hook and about a 1.5 to 2 inch mud minnow, and you set that about a foot off bottom, and you just let that soak. And I'm telling you, when you're jigging and catching them, you're calling those fish in, that set line is gonna catch you some giants. So don't be afraid to set a set line for jumbo perch, because even though they kind of peck at it and they'll nibble at it, those big ones, they're gonna chomp it down and you'll notice the bite and catch them. All right, that's gonna wrap up this one, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If any of these tips helped you out and got you on a few perch, make sure you leave a comment down below of how you did. And yeah, if you like what you saw, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned in the next one.